After I trained with my Uncle Martiniano and other teachers, maybe you have read there in the magazine that they were somewhat useless for me in combat. Most of what I have learned from my uncle, from Billy Baaklo, and my other teachers were only a little percentage only are very functional in actual realistic combat. But with Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3 of Manungusi, I have it was a sudden awareness for me, a sudden understanding, because when during our first meeting, our first training, he strike at me so fast that I was not able to see the stick, and he asked me, can anybody block that strike? And I told him, I don't think so. So that is the first lesson that the Campo practitioner the Campo Eskrima practitioner should learn, that the strike of the Campo cannot just be blocked. Actually, there is no blocking in Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3. But most of the students do not understand it yet, because during the training they were blocking the strikes, right? But in the real essence of Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3, no blocking whatsoever. No blocking. You have to hit and avoid being hit. That's what the first lesson. So, but it will take you time to understand, because the teacher the teacher cannot teach you right away to how it is done, and you cannot do it right away also. So there should be stages of learning how it should be done, that the strike cannot be blocked. If you are like I said, well trained in Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3, and you understand the principles, all principles behind all of that, and the lethal confrontation or the fight itself will only last for a few seconds. Not for a minute, but for a few seconds. One strike is enough if you are really well trained. So, no need for several strikes. You have to learn to achieve a very high level of mastery and understanding and training and scale of Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3. Only one strike is enough. But according to my teacher, because of difference in physical and mental attributes, maybe he said maybe 3. So that is why he put there, he wrote there, the Campo 1, 2, 3, maybe 3. But the highest level, one hit is enough, and the confrontation is consummated already. It ended already. No need to practice many strikes. Just one strike.
Just one.
just one strike. But you cannot instantly learn that without first learning from the first lesson, the basic, and then going to the advanced level. Manong Jose Caballero used to tell me stories that he uses stories that illustrate lessons in Eskrima. For example, he used to watch Western movies, the American Western movies, where there is a duel or a gunfight between two cowboys or two protagonists, the good guy and the bad guy. Even if the bad guy move first, but the bad guy will be killed, right? The good guy survive. So the word, the description there is that you have to hit somebody first, but never to be hit by your opponent. So that is the highest level of training. That's what I can say for you, to you about the Campo Industries. But we don't want to tell that to most of our students. But with you, because with all of what Rome has told me about you there in Uruguay, that you were really very enthusiastic in understanding the Campo, then that is what I'm telling you. So the goal of learning Eskrima de Campo, especially GDCIO, is to consummate the lethal confrontation within a fraction of a second if possible, but needs more training, more understanding, more learning of how to apply all of the principles. Because for example, there is that principle of preemptive strike principle. Preemptive strike principle, even if the opponent do not move, but you sense that he wants to kill you, and he is in a position, and he is within reach of you, that you will be harmed, then you have to move first. So that is preemptive strike principles. Striking first before the other guys make a move. So even if he doesn't move, but you sense that he wants to kill you, then you have to kill first. But okay, so let me clarify this. So to be able to neutralize or stop or to kill maybe the opponent, you need a weapon that can kill, right? So
Yes.
So the stick, if you are using a stick, be sure that the stick is a weapon that can kill. But again, the stick alone do not have the ability to kill by itself. It needs power, speed, and accuracy. But you have to develop first strength. The strength, physical as well as what other strengths? The mental strength or maybe spiritual strength, I don't know. But you need a strength like what Manong Jose had told me before when he said that Because me, I am a peace-loving guy. I do not want to hurt anybody. I do not. I found it hard even to kill a chicken. But Manong Jose said, you have to switch on yourself and switch on to have that killer instinct at the right moment. And then with a weapon that can kill, with a technique that can kill, and with your strength and your intent and everything, if the goal is to kill him, then you will be able to kill him. So that is the ultimate way of Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3 of Manong Jose. My learning with Manong Jose is not only in striking with each other, but also telling stories. Because Manong Jose used stories to help me understand how the application of the principles of fighting that Manong Jose wanted us to learn as practitioners. But it took me 11 years to understand that. 11 years. And our training is from morning until late afternoon. Because during the time of my training with Manong Jose, I have all the time because I can afford at that time. So we trained like 3 times in 1 week, but each day we train, it's always early morning until late afternoon. All training and also conversation, telling stories, relating to my training. So I understand more of what he told me, not only during the physical training, but also in conversation, telling stories. So I think I have already told you the ultimate goal of Eskrima de Campo GDCIO. And the ultimate goal is purely combat, self-defense, not for sports, not for striking so many times, not for striking like 3 minutes or more than 3 minutes. If a practitioner of Eskrima de Campo GDCIO met a lethal confrontation or in a fight, and it lasted for more than 1 minute or more than 3 minutes or more, then he has not yet reached the highest level of the system. Manong Jose always told me that that I should not feel what do you think, bad when he says that you have to kill, because he injected into myself the killer instinct. So at the right moment you have to switch on the killer instinct, and that you have to use everything to kill if that is the last resort for you to survive. Manong Jose is very selective of his students. Actually, I don't know, but it is only me I can say that it is only me who have been trained with him for 11 years. Most of the students before, after a month, 2 months or 3 months, they just go away. But okay, so let me say it like this. when I trained with Manong Jose, he told me that, okay, I will give you all the training for you to be able to defend yourself when it comes to lethal combat. But after 3 months, he told me, okay, I have already given you everything for 3 months, but for me, I said, no, maybe you have read that in the magazine. So I kept on going to his place, talking with him, then asking him to maybe there is something more that I can learn, because some people that I have heard that he has not been defeated more than 10 times during the competition. Although the competition has rules, but the competition usually lasted only for a few minutes, or maybe just 1 minute. The fastest that Manong Jose was able to stop his opponent during that fight is only about maybe 2 or 3 seconds, he told me. So, as Manong Jose has told me before, I don't have to train, so I don't have to know everything of Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3. Just learn first. The most important thing is learning how to strike. A strike that can kill. A very hard, a very powerful strike where there is accuracy. So, the very basic is that you have to learn, for example, strike 1, maybe you have to practice this so several times, 1,000 times maybe. Maybe you have read in the book of Tene Makachor, there was two sentences there about me when he described me as I can accurately strike a target. I think if you go over the book, you can read that, because I practice. The word he used there is I practice 1,000 times striking with just one strike. Maybe number 1, 1,000 times. Number 2, 1,000 times. Number 3, 1,000 times. Developing your strength, physical strength. There is developing power, then speed and accuracy. But as a strike, there should always that intent. Imagining that you're striking an opponent that you have to stop from harming you. So just the basic, Miguel, but you do it 1,000 times, it's all you need maybe. But if you want to learn more, because Manong Jose said that if you want to learn more, it is a must, because maybe you will be meeting a very good escrimador. You will be fighting a very good escrimador, so you have to learn more than that. So you have to learn strategy and tactics, pattern of strikes, maybe just to maybe to confuse your opponent maybe. But one strike, like I said, one strike is enough. And then Manong Jose said, be able to learn how to be within reaching distance of your opponent, but then you should learn also how to be out of the distance from your opponent. I think it's part of the training that you should learn. Also how to be within reaching distance, but then how not to be within reaching distance when your opponent strikes at you. Meaning you will be able to hit him, but he will not be able to hit you. And that is the highest lesson of the training in Eskrima de Campo GDCIO. After my training with Mano Jose, I started to learn how the principles that I have learned in some other arts that I have learned, like karate. I have learned karate. I have learned Chinese boxing, the fighting principles in Chinese boxing. I have learned from some people like Tai Chi also. I have learned that. I tried to. There are principles there that Mano Jose was not able to incorporate into his system. So some of the principles in Tai Chi, in karate and other that I have learned, I tried to put it into my training in Eskrima de Campo 1, 2, 3. So actually the document referring to your word, did I document it? Actually I have written all the lessons of Mano Jose, but then later on I discarded it. I discarded it because the description of the curriculum of Mano Jose cannot be understood really. I mean, for me, because for him it's only like alfabeto, abecedario. It's just like alphabet or ABC. But for example, his first curriculum is hitting orientation. Do you have that? Have you learned that? Hitting orientation, meaning in slow motion, you try to hit the target with your stick. So you learn it by moving slowly, slow motion, hitting. When the opponent strikes number 1, you hit his weapon hand with your weapon hand. That's lesson 1 for Mano Jose. So target orientation always. So when I look into that, then I told myself, why slowly? Why not make it fast? Tuluan mo siya ka?
Yes. Yes.
So why not make it fast? So that is why I formulated BDSF 1, BDSF 1 and 2.
Yes.
So meaning this one here, but making it fast and learning, teaching the body also how to move, applying the principles that I have learned from other arts like Tai Chi. So the second lesson of Mano Jose is from here, from Sirada, this one. This is the second lesson. You learn that the second lesson. Yeah, Sirada. Then Mano Jose used to strike very wide, right? very wide. But then, ituluan mo na siya.
Yes, man.
Oh.
Small movements.
But from very wide movement up to the smallest movement. I mean, the big circle, then the smallest circle. That it is all right beginning with the big circle because you have to let your body be acquainted with the movement. But then you have to go into a small circle. A small circle, friends, it is the application of economy of motion. So there is a principle of economy of motion. So why make it wide? It is because you are training your body also. But when you do a small circle, it is now the ultimate application of the technique, a small circle only. So I think I documented everything of Manong Jose, but I tried to put there some of the principles that I learned from other arts. So and Manong Jose also, like I said, is a very selective person. He selected student. I mean, also he is open to teaching any students, but he is not open to teaching. What Manong Jose called as his secrets. Manong Jose has secret. That is his own personal technique. He doesn't teach that to his students. So the students of Manong Jose just learn the big circle of doing it. When I asked Manong Jose about who were his teachers, he told me that actually he has several teachers, but he cannot name them all because he learned from several practitioners. I mean, he likes to see, to observe scrimadors in his place doing their things. And when he did that when he was just a small boy, like when he was about 7 years old. So he used to observe all of the scrimadors in his place, and he was very fascinated with the art. So with some of his friends, boys, they were also like they used to play with branches of bamboo branches, bamboo small stick. They just play around with small boys, trying to imitate the scrimadors. And later on, because he was really very fascinated with the art, he was not able to continue his studies. So he was not able to, I think he only finished like grade 3 or grade 4, I don't know. Because he told me he was not able to go to school for 5 years or 4 years, maybe 3 years only. So he had that obsession of learning really the art. So from when he was very small until he was a teenager, he keeps on learning the art. But then he asked the scrimadors before, what is that for? What are the purpose of your strikes? And then the screamador will just say, oh, we're blocking each other. He wanted to strike at me, I blocked. And then they were just playing around. Because some of the screamadors during his time they were part of a play or what you call Zarzuela before. Zarzuela is a stage play where
There's a reenactment.
there is a reenactment of a fight between
Christians and
between
Muslims.
Christians before and then Muslims before, and they were practicing. And Manong Jose, while observing them practicing, they're not really doing it with power. They're not striking, blocking each other like this. They're not killing each other. So he was questioning that. If it's really a fight between Christian and the Moro Muslim before, then somebody should have died. That was when he was a small boy. So he keeps that to himself. He was thinking that the purpose of the strike is to kill. So that was the thing that motivates him. That the strike should kill. So he tried to formulate from what he has observed, from his learning of those screamadors in the stage play. He tried to formulate his own. The simple one, target orientation, then this one, then alternate, then this one, then alternating. Very simple. But he told himself that I think his strike can kill Moro Muslim. That should what the Christian should have done.
Kill the Muslim.
Because it was his imagination. It should be realistic. If you're killing each other, Moro Muslim and Christians, then he was, like I said, he was bothered by the screamadors that we were killing Muslims, Moro Muslims. No, you were not killing Muslims. You're just playing around. So that was what he was thinking when he was small. So when he was a teenager, then he formulated a very simple curriculum of Eskrima that you can even list the lesson in one page of a small sheet of paper, right? One page of very, very simple. But compared to my curriculum is
1,000 pages.
1 million.
1,000 pages. What Manong Jose has experienced when he was teaching, I was also experiencing that. There are students I do not like to teach the good techniques. So what I did is what I learned from my uncle, what I learned from my other teachers, like Josie Pares, like Billy Bacro, Eskrima, Sungkite de Abanico. That's what I teach to my students. But not the good stuff of Sungkite, because there is also a good technique in Sungkite Abanico. There is also good techniques of my uncle, but the good techniques of my uncle, he kept that to himself. The good techniques of Billy Baclo, he keeps that to himself also. But fortunately, because we were, I was a very good student to them, so maybe they liked me also, so they gave me their good techniques. Though there are good techniques of my uncle, of Billy Baclo, and of Kandawan that I also put into the Campo GDCIO. So, and with all the with all of what I understand of all the principles of the art, I mean, that could be applied into the stick fighting. Like for example, the principle of non-telegraphic strike. Sometimes I see people misunderstood that principle, because actually when I asked some of my teachers before what they mean by non-telegraphic, I mean, because for me non-telegraphic is do not make any movement that could be understood as that is attacking a person, right? But if you made like this, you are already telegraphing. If you move forward, you are already telegraphing. So I think there is no such thing as non-telegraphic movement, non-telegraphic strike when it comes to when describing something. When you advise a student that do not make telegraphic movements in a fight, because I don't know, how can you make
You don't move.
you don't move, right? You don't move. Maybe there is just a sort of misunderstanding, or maybe I don't know how that. But for me, like what I told my students, when somebody approached me with a stick, I always drop my stick. Like I do not want to cause them harm. Maybe that is one way of non-telegraphing your movement, but from that position you can already strike him with a little strike. Maybe that is what is non-telegraphic.
Non-threatening position.
Non-threatening position. Okay.
That makes way more sense.
So, my system, you need only one strike, right? Or maybe you can also say, maybe I need two other strike, maybe 3. But again, in a fight, you need only one strike to stop the fight. Now, nowadays, you say some people sparring with each other, right? Because escrimadors like to spar with each other. They're hitting with each other. I mean, they are killing each other, right? So, what they're doing is killing each other. Not surviving. Because they're both sorry. They're both But that's my personal observation only. Because you need only one strike. If you strike cannot hurt somebody, cannot stop somebody. Maybe you do not have the power. Maybe no power, no speed, no accuracy. Maybe I don't know. That's why they use maybe all this protective gear, this protection. But for me, if you are used to that, that's not good in combat. In combat, like Manu Moses said, you do not move. You move, but you do not move around because that will be against the conservation of energy. As much as possible,
Stay still.
you keep still. Then you move only when you strike and hit the opponent. Then no need to move around, right? But when you need endurance and stamina, you have to do like running or moving around maybe. You have to do that. But in fighting, you don't move. You don't move around unless you are against many opponents. If you have one opponent only, no need to be moving around. Just keep still, relax, and then wait for the right moment to make that one strike. A strike that can kill. Okay, so more of the body mechanics in GDCIO is it's not only from what I learned in Tai Chi, but it's also what I also learned from karate and Chinese boxing. So, and not really not really the whole of Tai Chi, because the Tai Chi is different. It's the body without yet the stick, and the movement also of the footwork. So it's a little of the body position. I learned that from both the Japanese karate Shorin Ryu and also the Chinese boxing, and the principle which governs the Tai Chi is one with the body, together with the body. So everything that is connected to my body is always one with the body, So when you move, it is always the whole body that moves. Although there are some parts of the body that do not, that the movement is small, some are bigger, but it is the whole body that moves. So it is not only a part of the body that moves. So from head to the feet, to the sole of the feet, everything should move as one. So I developed that. In later on in 1980. I started doing that. 1980, doing is slow motion first. Starting to learn to look into how my body moves with a stick, and what are the benefits of doing as one. So I have experienced later on. For example, I was teaching a group in Cebu, and they were all tired already. They said, "Manong, I think we have to rest. We're all tired." No, I'm not tired. I can still go on, because they have not yet learned doing it as one with the body, or the whole body doing it. And I have learned that from training also. So learning to do everything as one with the body, it's not, you cannot just learn that in one day or 1 month. but slowly. Maybe you can learn that maybe 6 months or maybe a year, who knows. But you will be able to do that. That is why in Amara, that is the first lesson that will help you to educate the body to move one with the body, right? So you do your Amara, and you are doing that. But what you did there is just the beginning. When you go with a weapon and you want to go it fast, then the movement is just little, not wide. From the big circle, you go now to the smallest circle that your body can make. So just like that. But I usually the degree of development comes when I began teaching. Because when I teach, I have to show my students how it should be done. So I was teaching the student, but I was also training my body to move as one. So I can demonstrate that to my students how to move. Right. So I was always training. Like what my teacher in Tai Chi said, everything you do, when you move, even you sleep, you wake up, you are using the Tai Chi principle of moving as one, together, one with whole body as one.
Not just in martial arts, Manong.
Not just in martial arts. My advice to you is every day you should spend time for training. Every day. Because if you miss 1 week of your training, you go back to square one. So every day that continues. So the secret there is constant training. You miss 1 month of the training, you go back to square one. Visualization is also very good. So mentally, you visualize you have an opponent, and if the opponent is attacking you, and you are doing things to escape from his attack. So you do that. You try to visualize.
Perfect.
Without a partner, without a training partner, what the best way is to visualize an opponent. Visualize an opponent. Then you try to move. When visualizing him, imagining him that that he is striking at you with number 1, maybe number 2. Then you try how to move and how to counter his movements. So imagine how to outmaneuver your opponent. Everything. Visualization. It's not only doing it with a partner, but visualize. Even when I'm lying down, when at night when I'm lying down and very much awake before, I visualize. I was lying down, but my mind is visualizing things. So that's how I formulated the whole system of the Campo Judiciario. Lastly, also I would like to tell you, Miguel, that if people saw me personally, they will always say that are you really an escrimador? They will always ask me that, because I do not look like escrimador.
But how an escrimador
Looks
there was One time I was in Cebu with my friends and we were at Doce Pares club. Then there are also other grandmasters there, and we had a picture taking. And my student said, "Manong, you are the only one who is smiling there. Everyone is looking like a first fighter. You're only the only one smiling there. I was the only one smiling.
That's
there.
why you don't look like a escrimador.
I look when I was young. Somebody said you look like a movie star, Manong.
Oh yes, in the magazine, it could be, yes, you could be on a
Yeah.
movie cover. Yes, yes,
I
yes,
look
yes.
like a movie star.